everyone, Cadams Tech here. So in today's video, I wanted to go through and show you all what I believe to be around, I would say 90% of the most important HTML tags for you to know.
All right, so the next one I want to teach you is the image tag. Very useful for displaying images within HTML. So let's go over here to Google and let's type cat image, right? And then let's just go ahead and right click, save image, or actually save image as. And then we want to put that, let's just go ahead and put that on our desktop too. And we'll just say cat, save. And close that out, go back to our editor, and then go over here and we go to image. So image, and then we come over here and type source equals, and then we need to find where it's at, right? So there's index.html, there's cat, and then it should know that it's on the desktop. If not, then you'll need to provide the full path based on your system. But if you save it to the desktop, I think this will suffice. Then we could say alt equals, and then this will be the text that, you know, it helps SEO, it helps screen readers, it helps things like that. So if we hit Command S, save, or Control S, if you're on Windows, come over here, refresh. Look at that, we have a cat. You can change the sizing by doing things like this. So if we go back to your editor, we go to width equals, and let's say 1,000, and then height equals 1,000. Save it, come over here. Look how big this cat is. This cat's jumping out at me, oh my god. Woo! Cat's there, all right. So, guys learned about images, really powerful stuff. Hope you found it useful. All right, so let's learn about radio buttons. Radio buttons are something that I use every now and then, not super often, but I still want to show you anyway. So what we want to do is, similar to input type equals radio, value equals apples. Then we'll go ahead and do a label for this, very similar to what we did earlier. And then we want to say apples. We'll say 4 equals apples. And we'll say bananas, bananas, bananas. Let's do one more time. Oranges, oranges, oranges. Save that, come over here, refresh. Apples, bananas, oranges. See how you can select, and these are useful inputs here. And hope you learned something from that. Okay, so let's talk about checkboxes. Checkboxes are very similar to inputs. Let's go ahead and do input type equals checkbox, and then value equals, we'll say opt in. And then over here, we'll do a label for, and then say opt in, and then we'll say opt in. Let's remove this over here. Save it, come over here, refresh. Now, you can click that, see the little check, you can unclick it, and that's what a checkbox is. All right, another tag that you might find useful is called an HR, or a horizontal row. So let's go ahead and use one of those puppies. So if we come over here, it's a very simple tag. All it requires is that you do this, and it's a self-closing tag. So tags that do not require a closing tag are called a self-closing tag, which is like this, right? It has the closing / after the fact. It's not before it, it's after. So if we save this, come back over here, refresh this, see it draws that line right across the screen. It makes good for dividers. So if you want to come back over here and say item 1, and then you want to add another horizontal row, and then you want to say like item 2, and then you want to add another horizontal row. Save that, refresh this, you can see item 1, item 2. Can sometimes make sense. All right, so let's talk about divs. Divs is kind of hard to grasp until you get into CSS, but picture div as being a container, right? It's holding items within a particular section. So to demonstrate this, let's go ahead and create an opening and closing div. And sometimes you'll see divs with the class of container, and it'll say container. And then the CSS will target this container class and do certain things with it. We don't need to get into that right now. I'll talk about it when I talk about CSS. But for this, a div is a container. So picture this opening div as the top slice of bread. Picture this bottom closing div as the bottom slice of bread, right? Anything that goes in between it is the stuff that belongs within this container. So we have a div here. Let's go ahead and create an H1 and let's say my super cool website. And then let's go ahead and have this and then say, hey, thanks for coming to my website. And then let's save this, come back over here. Visually, made a typo there. That happens. This is part of the process. Let's remove that, come back. So what we have here is an H1, we have a P tag, and it's all contained within this div. One way you can inspect the code is by doing Command Option U on a Mac. Forget what the Windows binding is for that, but it's something similar. It might be Control Option U, or you could right-click, View Page Source, and then you can see the code that is rendered to the page. Now, if we look at the hierarchy of it, we have the body, which is like the parent of the div. We have the div, which is the child of the body. We have H1 and the P, which I said is like sandwiched. It's like the lettuce and the meat within the opening and closing div, which is like the bread, right? So the div is a container. It's trying to hold different sections within it. It's a way to organize your code, but also through CSS, you can do some more powerful things with it. So just know that for now. If you ever want to section your code and make it nice and make it readable, using divs is the way to go, right? It's a block level way of writing code. All right, so for this final section, we're going to cover a couple other things. So here we have spans. Spans are very similar to divs, right? Except they're inline. And you'll know what this means once you start getting into CSS. For now, let's go ahead and tell you that it's similar to a div, except it's not entirely similar, right? It's treated a little differently. Just get these terms in your head. I don't want you to understand these at the moment until you get into CSS. Just know that div means a block level element, right? And then span is an inline element. Just know that, but they're both essentially containers. And you can do something similar. You could say 1, you could say 2, and it's gonna look very, very similar until you start using CSS to target these. So if we go back over to the page here, we refresh this, you can see 1, 2. If we go to the hierarchy of it, you can see it's contained, it's sandwiched in. And just know that this exists. Just know that these are both containers, div, block level, span, inline level. And just know that once you get into CSS territory, that's where you'll understand more of the nuances of them. But I feel like I would fail you unless I explain to you that these are things, right? Okay, now that we got that covered and out of the way, let's go over here. Let's go down here to and do the final section. So I'll just get rid of this stuff for now. So we have this stuff, that's fine. Head, body, we'll leave the body. And then we'll come over here, we'll go down to footer. So, same as the human body, right? We have the head for the head, the stuff that belongs to the top, body for the stuff, everything in between, and we have the footer for the very bottom. What would typically go in a footer? Well, let's teach you one more here. So we can say p tag, we can say author is foobar, let's do fooman, and then we could say p, and let's say, we'll get a little more advanced here, href equals, we'll say mail2 with a colon there, and then we'll say Cadams Tech, cadamsweb@gmail.com, right? And then we will, between these two, we'll say cadamsweb, cadamsweb@gmail.com. We'll save this, come back over here, refresh. This is the final section of the page. What happens if you click on this? It will allow you to send an email to the recipient. Very, very useful, very simple concept, but it's very powerful with just a small amount of tags down here. So if we go back to the code and we look at it, Look at this. This little bit right here is actually what will fire off that entire email widget right there. It'll launch it. It'll allow the users to populate it with some text, and it's a super powerful way of communicating, and it only requires one line of code, guys. So I hope you all have found this to be useful. I'm really looking forward to putting out more tutorials in the future. This is the first video tutorial that I've ever created. I hope you all have gained something from it. I can't wait to get into CSS and start targeting these different elements. Start showing you what the div and the span tags can do when you target them with CSS selectors. And I'm going to also start coming out with some JavaScript content too. So if you've gotten anything useful out of this, remember to like and subscribe, share it with anyone that you know is interested in development. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. Till next time.